You're watching Truth Talk News.
Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "People only see what they are prepared to see. It is time to open your eyes." The real menace of our republic is this invisible government, which, like a giant octopus, sprawls its slimy length over city, state, and nation. Like the octopus of real life, it operates under a cover of self-created screen. At the head of this octopus are the Rockefeller Standard Oil interests and a small group of powerful banking houses, generally referred to as international bankers. The little coterie of powerful international bankers virtually run the United States government for their own selfish purposes. They practically control both political parties. John Hylan, 1922, then mayor of New York City. Well, by now they clearly own both parties. Past is prologue. The money powers prey upon the nation in times of peace and conspire against it in times of adversity. It is more despotic than a monarchy, more insolent than autocracy, and more selfish than bureaucracy. It denounces as public enemies all who question its methods or throw light upon its crimes. I have two great enemies, the Southern Army in front of me and the bankers in the rear. Of the two, the one at my rear is my greatest foe. Corporations have been enthroned, and an era of corruption in high places will follow. And the money powers of the country will endeavor to prolong its reign by working upon the prejudices of the people until the wealth is aggregated into the hands of a few and the republic is destroyed. Abraham Lincoln. The drive of the Rockefellers and their allies is to create a one-world government combining super-capitalism and communism under the same tent, all under their control. Do I mean conspiracy? Yes, I do. I am convinced there is such a plot, international in scope, generations old in planning, and incredibly evil in intent. Larry P. McDonald, U.S. Congressman, 1976. Some of the biggest men in the United States in the field of commerce and manufacture are afraid of something. They know that there is a power somewhere so organized, so subtle, so watchful, so interlocked, so complete, so pervasive, that they had better not speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it. Woodrow Wilson, from his book The New Freedom, 1913. I am a most unhappy man. I have unwittingly ruined my country. A great industrial nation is controlled by its system of credit. Our system of credit is concentrated. The growth of the nation, therefore, and all activities are in the hands of a few men. We have come to be one of the worst ruled, one of the most completely controlled and dominated governments in the civilized world. No longer a government by free opinion, no longer a government by conviction and the vote of the majority, but a government by the opinion and the duress of a small group of dominant men. President Woodrow Wilson. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and the corporations which will grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. Thomas Jefferson. The hand that gives is above the hand that takes. Money has no motherland. Financiers are without patriotism and without decency. Their sole object is gain. Napoleon Bonaparte. The real rulers in Washington are invisible and exercise power from behind the scenes. Felix Frankfurter, Supreme Court Justice. The world is governed by very different personages from what is imagined by those who are not behind the scenes. Benjamin Disraeli, first Prime Minister of England, in a novel he published in 1844 called Coningsby, The New Generation. Gentlemen, I have had men watching you for a long time, and I am convinced that you have used the funds of the bank to speculate in the breadstuffs of the country. When you won, you divided the profits amongst you, and when you lost, you charged it to the bank. You tell me that if I take the deposits from the bank and annul its charter, I shall ruin 10,000 families. That may be true, gentlemen, but that is your sin. Should I let you go on, you will ruin 50,000 families, and that would be my sin. You are a den of vipers and thieves. President Andrew Jackson, who in, of course, 1836 forced the closing of the Second Bank of the United States by revoking its charter. The Federal Reserve banks are one of the most corrupt institutions the world has ever seen. There is not a man within the sound of my voice who does not know that this nation is run by the international bankers. Congressman Louis T. McFadden. We have, in this country, one of the most corrupt institutions the world has ever known. I refer to the Federal Reserve Board. This evil institution has impoverished the people of the United States and has practically bankrupted our government. It has done this through the corrupt practices of the moneyed vultures who control it. Congressman McFadden again in 1932. I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England to rule the empire. The man that controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the money supply. Baron Nathan Meyer de Rothschild, I believe that was in 1812, he made that statement. These are the rulers of big business. They have superseded the teachings of our parents and are reducible to a simple maxim. Get a monopoly, let society work for you, and remember that the best of all business is politics. For a legislative grant, franchise, subsidy, or tax exemption is worth more than a Kimberly or Comstock load, since it does not require any labor, either mental or physical, for its exploitation. Frederick C. Howe in Confessions of a Monopolist, 1906. If we are merely dealing with the law of averages, half of the events affecting our nation's well-being should be good for America. If we are dealing with mere incompetence, our leaders should occasionally make a mistake in our favor. We are not dealing with coincidence or stupidity, but with planning and brilliance. Gary Allen from his book, None Dare Call It a Conspiracy. A nation can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gate is less formidable, for he is known and carries his banner openly, but the traitor moves amongst those with the gate freely, his sly whispers rustling through all the alleys, heard in the very halls of government itself. For the traitor appears not as a traitor, he speaks in accents familiar to his victims, and he wears their face and their garments. He appeals to the baseness that lies deep in the hearts of all men. He rots the soul of a nation. He works secretly and unknown in the night to undermine the pillars of the city. He infects the body politic so that it can no longer resist. A murderer is less to fear. Marcus Tullius Cicero, 42 BC. So we have leaders like this that betray the people, saying that they're going to help the people. Our current quote-unquote commander-in-chief fits that category. So does the last several presidents. We have been betrayed, my fellow Americans. Treason has been committed by Obama, by Bush, and by Clinton. Treason against the American people. As nightfall does not come at once, neither does oppression. In both instances, there's a twilight where everything remains seemingly unchanged, and it is in such twilight that we must be aware of change in the air, however slight, lest we become unwitting victims of the darkness. Supreme Court Justice William O. Douglas. Ideas are more powerful than guns. We would not let our enemies have guns. Why should we let them have ideas? Joseph Stalin. When a well-packaged web of lies has been sold gradually to the masses over generations, the truth will seem utterly preposterous and its speaker a raving lunatic. Dresden James. In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. George Orwell. I'm Howard Nima. This is Truth Talk News.
Henry Kissinger, New World Order Mind Control. Bank of America stealing homes with cut and paste mortgage loans. Police, state, taser guns, FEMA camps, Mandarin. Monsanto rules the food supply while Big Pharma dopes your mind. Prison system, profiteers, foundations, fund the fears, fund the evil through the years. The world's not as it appears. CIA smuggles drugs while Wachovia and Wells Fargo launder them, then give the proceeds to the owners of the Federal Reserve Bank. Now the IRS takes money out of every single check. Money created out of thin air and leave you with debt. They want to make you a serf, a slave to their demand. They want to take your life in every way they can. Fluoride, GMO, vaccines, chemtrails, United Nations genocide. The world they show us is not real. This is how they kill and steal. Rothschild, Bundy, Rockefeller, Club of Rome. On the Georgia Guide, soldiers written in stone. Cut through the matrix, awaken to the lies. Do not be hypnotized. We are one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The lethality of their power is greater than ever. Their capacity to impose control over the politically awakened masses of the world is at a historical low. In earlier times, it was easier to control 1 million people. Literally, it was easier to control 1 million people than physically to kill 1 million people. Today, it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people.
Something has gotten lost. And that something is the truth. What is it in us that seeks the truth? Is it our minds? Or is it our hearts?